December 19th marked the first anniversary of President Park Geun-hye's Election Day victory. Presidential Office Correspondent Eoh Jin-joo appeared on News in Depth to look back on the first 10 months of the Park Geun-hye administration. When it comes to diplomatic and security issues, the Park Geun-hye administration earned high marks. Its strong stance on security issues and the accomplishments from so-called sales diplomacy efforts overseas were the high points. But there has been criticism about the administration's inability to communicate when it comes to domestic issues. The NIS election scandal and issues surrounding the pension fund and welfare policies hung over the administration's head. President Park Geun-hye pledged a new era of national happiness when she was first elected as president, and there are great expectations for the remainder of her presidency. This week also marked the second anniversary of the death of former North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and the second anniversary since Kim Jong-un assumed power. There were expectations about possible reforms and an opening of the market during the earlier stages of Kim Jong-un's rule. But after the execution of North Korea's second-in-command Chang Song-taek, there's speculation that North Korea will now fall under the heavy hand of the young leader. 2 years in, what might be the future direction of North Korea under Kim Jong-un? Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee brought coverage of the Kim Jong-un rule starting Monday on News in Depth. Experts provided in-depth analysis of North Korea's economic situation, its nuclear program, and the future of Sino-North Korean relations.
한 5개 정도 본 것 같아요. 10편 정도.
한 20편, 25편.
This year, for the first time ever, more than 200 million tickets were sold to movies in Korea. The average Korean saw 4 movies in the cinema in 2013.
By the end of 2013, we predict that about 210 million tickets will have been sold.
And more moviegoers chose to take in Korean movies, which accounted for 60% of the total. Out of the top 10 grossing movies of 2013, 8 of them were Korean movies. It's a golden age for Korean cinema. What was the driving force for Korean movies achieving historic results? Reporter Connie Lee brought us the story.
Arirang News.
The National Intelligence Service's presidential election involvement scandal shook the nation over the past year. With many ups and downs amid a political fight, the opportunity to discuss the issue of NIS reform finally came this past week. The discussion kicked off with a political confrontation rife with tension. National Assembly correspondent Kim Yeon-ji was at the site to cover the intensity of the situation.
Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
Last Tuesday,
오늘 국정원 예산 통제하는 방안에 대한 얘기를 하거든요. 전문가들이 아마 4분이 있을 거예요. 두 분, 여당, 야당에서 각각 추천한 사람이 있고, 그 사람들의 말을 듣고 이제 그 여야 의원들이 약간 토론, 디베이트하는 식으로 막 이렇게 하고 막 그럴 거거든요. 그래서 그 특위의 위원장이 가운데 앉아 있으면 위원장을 중심으로 왼쪽에 야당 의원들이 앉고 오른쪽에 여당 의원들이 앉거든요. 그러니까 사이드가 달라요. 그거 해서 여야 그래도 각각 한 분씩은 최소한 녹취를 따야 할 것 같고.
After meticulous planning, Yeon-ji heads to the location. She is headed to the National Assembly's Special Parliamentary Committee hearing. Yeon-ji has arrived early, and she takes time to study the material thoroughly. Moments later, lawmakers from both the opposition and ruling parties arrive one by one.
On Tuesday, it was a very busy day. I had to cover the National Assembly's Special Parliamentary Committee's hearing. The committee invited some experts from outside, and they heard from the experts what the scope of the reform should be for the National Intelligence Service.
국가정보원 등 국가기관의 정치적 중립성 강화를 위한 제도 개선 특별위원회를 개의합니다.
Speculation about intelligence agency involvement in last year's presidential election was the cause of political conflicts over the past year.
국가정보원 예산의 민주적 통제 방안에 대해 논의하는 자리입니다.
There was heated public interest and media coverage at the meeting on reforming the National Intelligence Service. The purpose of the public hearing was to listen to the reform policies and the expert responses.
국가정보원이 존재하는 충분히 정보위원회에서 구체적으로 국정원의 활동에 대해서 실질적으로 파악을 할 수 있을 수 있도록 하기 위한 그런 구체적인 내용들이 심사가 되어야 될 것이겠고요.
There were many criticisms made.
원세훈 원장이 인식이 잘못됐다고 생각합니다. 즉 진보 좌파와 종북을 하나로 분다. 반정부와 정부 비판 세력과 종북 세력은 구분을 해서 정부 비판 세력은 야권이고 야당 성향이고 여기 대해서는 비난하면 안 되거든요. 그럼 정치 개입이 될로 오해받을 수 여지가 있으니까. 국정원장으로서는 잘못된 인사가 아니냐. 근데 여기서 지금 개혁 방안 논의되는 부분 인사에 관한 건 전혀 초점이 없습니다.
The speech brought about keen interest, so the camera staff was busy trying to catch every word during the meeting. Yeon-ji is busy as well. She records the key comments by the experts as they speak, while looking over the written material.
이 정보라고 하는 게 그 자체로서는 선도 아니고 악도 아니기 때문에 결국 선용하느냐 악용하느냐에 따라서 그 파급체는 매우 극단적인 차이가 나타날 수도 있고.
Experts emphasized various details, including the need to create the scope of NIS information gathering and the need to make the budget public.
독일의 경우에는 각 기관별 예산을 공개하고 프랑스 같은 경우에는 그에 덧붙여서 사업별 예산까지도 다 공개를 합니다. 예산을 공개한다고 해서 비밀이 새나간다. 그건 거짓말이라는 게 일반적인 이야기입니다.
I thought this public hearing is really important, on the policy level. I mean, these are the people who could freely give out their views about what they think is really crucial for the spy agency reform, which I believe the majority of the people in Korea want at this point. So that really intrigued me, and so I worked very hard that day to cover all different elements of that debate.
This time, it was the question and answer session for lawmakers of the opposition parties.
국정원이야말로 정말 글로벌 스탠다드에 비춰봤을 때는 한참 뒤떨어져 있다. 그런 평가를 하지 않을 수 없습니다. 이 부분에 대해서 한상희 교수님께서 어떻게 생각하십니까?
다른 국가에 있어서의 그 비밀정보기관은 대체로 내각 아래에 있습니다. 각 부의 장관 밑에서 있기 때문에 그렇기 때문에 그 국회에 의한 정치적인 통제도 가능하고 내부적인 어떤 그 통제도 가능합니다. 그런데 우리 국정원의 경우에는 어느 누구의 통제도 받지 않는 체제로 되어 있습니다.
국회의원들 중심으로.
사실 국정원은 시계추가
Yeon-ji must have predicted the imminent conflict.
대통령은 대통령대로 자기가 믿을 수 있는 사람을 임명하고 있고 그럼 잘못하지 않도록 하는 장치를 만드는 것이 지금 필요한 게 아닌가 그런 생각이 어떻게 생각하십니까?
Criticism about the issue of nominating the NIS director.
그 인사 문제를 그래서 저는 개혁안의 초점이 거기에 맞춰졌다고 그래서 말씀을 드리는 겁니다.
물론 그런 것도 필요하지만
자, 그래서 좋습니다. 지금 개혁안 쭉 보면은 지금 바로 거기 이렇게 하면은 지금 그 예산을 통제하고 이러면은 이게 사전에 방지가 될 거라고 보십니까? 저는 아니라고 봅니다.
참고로 그 DJ 정부나 노무현 정부에서도 상당히 이런 부분에서 사실 그 개혁을 할 수 있는 절호의 찬스가 있었어요. 저는 근데 그 부분에 대한 그 개혁의 기회를 놓쳤다고 보는데 어떻게 생각하세요?
그것이 과연 그 전에 어쨌든 그 집권했던 정당에 대해서 비판적인 생각을 가지고 계신다라고 한다면 지금 권력을 가지고 있을 때 집권하고 있을 때 이 문제를 해결하고 가시는 게 적절하다고 생각합니다.
Amid the continuing tension, Yeon-ji continues to type away.
또는 선거 개입 근절을 얘기하고 있지만은
정치 개입은 근절하고 정보기관에서 제대로 키워야 한다고 생각해요. 그러려면 국민적 공감대를 얻어야 한단 말이죠. 예산 들여다봐야 되지 않겠습니까? 누가 하는지 들여다봐야 되지 않겠어요?
Let's control the scope of unlimited information gathering. It's an excessive reform policy. There was a constant political battle. But the special parliamentary committee hearing came to an end without an agreement.
So when they go about amending these related laws to make sure the spy agency does not interfere in politics from now on, I think these discussions that we had at the hearing will be part and parcel of their work, from now on. So that's why I wanted to pay keen attention to what each expert said at the hearing. And other people may judge that this hearing was not really important at all because, the experts are not lawmakers and they are just giving out their opinions. But I still think that it's important to fresh our minds and really focus on the nature of the spy agency in Korea.
After the hearing, Yeon-ji has returned to the press room. She is left to write the story. The public hearing that continued until the early evening. There's a lot of information Yeon-ji wants to share with the viewers, especially because it's a hearing she watched with interest.
녹취만 모아놓은 게 이거예요? 그러니까 처음에 이분들이 20분씩 돌아가면서 말한 게 이게 다란 말이죠?
The story should be just 2.5 minutes long, so it's important to keep the essence of the story. Using 2 laptops at the same time, Yeon-ji is focused on selecting the right words for her story.
지금 잘랐어요.
오 3개?
네, 3개.
Meanwhile, the general meeting of the Land Infrastructure and Transport Committee is being broadcast live on TV.
주승용 위원장이 야당 쪽이죠?
Yeon-ji is unable to look away from the television set.
여당 간사주장은 합의를 했다. 법안 같이 논의하기로. 그래서 순서상 빨리 시간 안 걸리는 법안부터 하고 철도 파업 관련해서 질의하자 이렇게 하는데 야당에서는 원래 합의가 안 됐다고 얘기를 하고 또 원래 안건에도 없었는데 왜 그거를 법안을 먼저 하냐 이래가지고 순서 가지고서
그럼 아무것도 못한 거예요?
아무것도 못한 거예요. 오전부터.
Not just this public hearing about the spy agency, but also there was another event at the National Assembly that day that my news desk wanted me to keep an eye on. There is this nationwide strike being carried out by Korea railway workers, and it's going on for 10 days now, and it's the longest strike ever. And so the Land Committee, hurriedly, came up with this meeting, and my news desk wanted me to keep an eye on what kind of discussions they end up having on that topic of, railway workers' strike. And so while I was working on this NIS, agency reform, I also had to keep an eye on this meeting on TV screen in my room at the National Assembly. So
Yeon-ji is busy at work as the only National Assembly correspondent from Arirang TV.
the process is expected to be tough to carry out
The tight and busy
necessary
schedule has
reforms
become
Wednesday.
like a lifestyle for her.
Taking these views into consideration, the special committee will start deliberating on how to amend the spy agency law to carry out the necessary reforms Wednesday. However, the process is expected to be tough as the rival parties are wide apart on what the scope of the reform should be. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
Now all that's left to do is to dub her story.
3, 2, 1. Others argued the issue with the spy agency is more of a structural problem, and the current law authorizes NIS agents to not only collect and compile intelligence, but investigate crimes of insurrection or rebellion. 네, 호영 씨, 저 김윤지인데요. 제가 2번 읽은 문장이 있거든요. 끝에서 2번째 문장. 네, 2번째 걸로 써주세요. 제 거 2번째 인터뷰 길게 나오잖아요. 그거 말씀하신 이재교 그분, 제가 그분 인터뷰 나오기 전에 막 그분 이름을 말하면서 문장에서 막 말을 하거든요. 그러니까 그분 샷으로 시작을 해달라고 그 문장을. 오케이. 네, 다 올라갔어요. 네.
Kim Yeon-ji.
And that evening,
Currently, the National Intelligence Service discloses the size of its budget to the Parliament's Intelligence Committee. A law professor who attended Tuesday's hearing told lawmakers that has to change if the NIS is to be reformed.
The National Assembly is a huge organization. There are 300 lawmakers that represent each constituency in Korea. And, there are 16 different standing committees that operate on a monthly basis. And so it's been a challenge for me to be at the center of all that news, political news. But I think I've grown that much because the work has been really challenging. And it's been also a privilege to be at the center of political news, what makes headlines in Korea. Yes, it's been a very dynamic and challenging year, and I'll make sure to grow even more from now on, and it's been a time well spent.
Yeon-ji has been at the forefront reporting from the National Assembly, where there seemed to be more drama than usual. She prepares herself for a new year as she looks back at her work over 2013 as the National Assembly correspondent.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Sean. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
You're shown in 180 countries, right?
188 from the last I counted.
My word, how many countries are there in the world?
I think the UN says like 193. And then
Well, that means we have something in common then, because as you may know, the Better Life Index has been visited by people from over 180 countries in the world. We are now at 7.1 million visits.
a month.
In total.
Oh, in total.
For us, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because we as an organization, in fact, many people had never heard of OECD.
Wow.
Did you have any idea that that was invented at the OECD?
No.
No. Do you have any doubt that the Better Life Index is from the OECD?
Well, because it's in the title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we made sure this time around that when we were going to come up with something that we were hoping would have the potential to have a very serious impact at a global level, to move beyond GDP, and to help people answer a question that obsesses all of us. When we think about it, what's important in your life, it dominates most of the things that you think about.
we have some questions that we also prepared that were like specific to Korea.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, I think it would be great to focus, more on the index. It's only 3 years old, right?
It's not yet 3 years old. It was born in May 2011, so it'll be 3 in about half a year's time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So another birthday.
And in that space of time, it's very interesting because I was telling you the impact that we'd had in the last 6 months. We have had over 1 million unique visitors to the index.
Who are these people? Are they policymakers?
They are from all sort of walks of life, and we don't have a capacity, if you like, to measure individual
But you can see
profiles.
the countries they come from.
We can see the countries that they come from, absolutely, yeah. And we have a very considerable number who are visiting us from the US, from France, from Canada, Germany, Mexico, Spain. A lot of visits coming from Spanish-speaking countries because we launched the index in Spanish in May.
Oh.
So it now exists in English, French, Russian and Spanish.
Great.
We will be launching it in German in January, in Portuguese, Brazilian in June, and can you guess where we will be doing that and when?
Oh, for the World Cup.
Exactly. And do you know who has just committed to launching it with us in Brazil?
Not Samsung.
No, Pele.
Oh, how cool! Wow, that's very bold to get a sports star with the OECD.
When the idea of his becoming involved presented itself, we thought it was fantastic. But it's something really that you were saying it's very un-OECD.
Yeah.
So with something like this, we're able to really change many things about who we are and what we do. Because when I started, I thought the potential the organization had, it was like a place which is full of valuable things, but that needed to be actually grabbed, shaken up, and shown for what they are.
Great raw materials.
Yeah,
Needed the,
it's a little bit like Alibaba's cave. You've got to go in there and you've got to shine the lamps.
Well, Mr. Gooch, thank you so much for joining us tonight on After 10.
Thank you for the invitation.
So your role at the OECD is to simplify the many complex...
Very recently, as you know, we issued the OECD PISA report, which measures the levels of secondary education all around the world. Number one depends on what you consider to be most important in life. What can we do as policymakers and designers of policy to improve work-life balance for people? Is first off, ask people the question, do you